Hello everyone. In this video we are talking about atmospheric room system 6 years later. I hope I don't have to make a 7, 8, 9, 10 years later video. I will show you now CRG's video, which is exactly 6 years old. Then I will show you what we have in the game and there will be a conclusion.
Hi, my name is Chad McKinney and I'm a gameplay programmer here in the Los Angeles studio. I'm going to be talking about interaction linking and the room system. So this level demonstrates the room system and atmosphere containers. The room system and atmosphere containers are used to create boundaries for our space stations and ships and places in the game where we want there to be pressurization of different gas levels. It's something that we've to date faked in the game with the airlocks, and if you go into an airlock without a spacesuit, you'll die. But the system in place that does that isn't very general, and it doesn't allow for emergent gameplay. What we're working on now is a system that is a more proper way to handle pressurization and depressurization in the game. And it's still pretty early days for this. As you can see, this test level just has some basic boxes and shapes that define the room volumes. And we have some test assets in here just to play around with it. The spheres that are inside these volumes represent the atmospheric composition. So here the blue spheres are oxygen, and the red spheres indicate that that room has been filled with carbon dioxide. The room system uses three main types of entities. One is the atmosphere container, which is the thing that has the atmospheric composition. So for instance, if I come over here and look at this debug output, I can see that the composition in this particular room is 0.8% oxygen and 0.12% carbon dioxide. But if I walk into space, I have nothing. There's no atmosphere here. So the atmosphere container is a very important part. The next one is the room. The room indicates the volume and the boundaries for the atmosphere that's connected to it. Later on, this will also be used to indicate security and power connectivity. But for now, we're just working with atmosphere. So that's atmosphere containers, rooms, and then the third important type is the room connector. So here, there's the yellow box around this door. This yellow box indicates that there's a connection between this room here and outer space. Now, the room system uses these room connectors to try to create pressure equalization between different areas, between the two spaces that the room connector connects. In this instance, the room connector is connecting a room to outer space. So if I open this door, the oxygen levels in the room are going to drop. If I walk into the room, we can get some debug output to see that, yes, the pressure in the room is dropping rather quickly. And the pressure in the adjacent rooms is also dropping, although less quickly because it has to traverse through the room connectors. Now, having a system like this is really nice because it allows for more emergent gameplay. I could, for instance, close this door and close this door off and keep the pressure, or keep the depressurization localized to a certain space. Or I could reopen the door and allow for the oxygen levels in the other room to fill up this space so that the people on this side of the space station don't die. As you can tell, the room system is still pretty early days. We just now hooked it up to audio, and we plan on hooking it up to the player behavior and visuals soon. But for now, we're still developing it, and I look forward to having this into Star Citizen, which I think is going to allow for some rather interesting gameplay.
First test is atmospheric room system in space. Let's open the ramp. Okay, it just opens, no air is streaming out, those packages are totally fine. Now we removed our helmet. We are still fine, we take no damage. We have an invisible line here. If you are inside this line, you are fine. If you're outside this line, you take damage because no oxygen. This ship has no air shield. I take a few steps to the right. Okay, now sound stopped. And now we are at 0 degrees Celsius, but we are still fine. No damage taken because of no oxygen. One more step. One more. And now I take damage because of no oxygen. So we have invisible walls. If you're inside this wall, you are perfectly fine, even if your door, your ramp, is wide open in space. If you are beyond this line, you take damage. We are now on DEMA, inside normal temperatures. Nothing out of the ordinary. Outside we have 41 degrees Celsius. Let's go inside again. And it's going down and vanishing at 21 degrees Celsius. We have the same line here. 21 degrees Celsius. It vanishes when it is at 21 degrees. Step to the right. And now we are at 41, at 42. Step to the left. 21 and vanishing. Step to the right. 41. Again, this ship has no air shields. Only a very few ships have air shields, for example, Prowler. Yeah. And now some examples of ships that are not built with an atmospheric room system in mind. This is Valkyrie. If you want to get out on a moon without an atmosphere or in space into EVA, you have to open the big ramp or the side doors, and this whole area will get exposed to the vacuum of space. Not impossible, but this is a huge waste of resources. You have to pump all this air out and in again, or you can just vent it out and have to replace it. Yeah, and those beds are not protected. They are exposed to the vacuum of space. This area could actually be closed. There's a door, but it's not working. So right now, your turret stations are exposed to a vacuum of space too. Cutlass Black, if you want to leave the ship, when you have no atmosphere outside, you have to open the ramp or the side door, and you have to depressurize this whole area just for one person going into EVA or onto a planet moon without a prefabable atmosphere. Yeah, this is a huge waste of resources. Mercury Star Runner, if you want to leave the ship and you don't have atmosphere outside, you have to open the ramp, and this whole area has to be depressurized and repressurized later again. Huge waste of resources, and what you have stored here might not be okay with vacuum of space. Now we have an Andromeda. Why are you showing an Andromeda? It's such an old design. Well, the funny thing is, Andromeda is actually built with an atmospheric room system in mind. We have an airlock in the front elevator. It's not perfect. It should be taller, but at least someone thought about this in the past. Let's get up. Now you can exchange air or depressurize, and you are inside. It even says airlock. It looks to me like the people who started this project thought about an atmospheric room system, then they left, other people took over, and they just don't care about it anymore. But Chris still wants it. This means a lot of ships need reworks. Conclusion. In year 10 and 6 years after ZRG's video, we still don't have an atmospheric room system. Most ships in Star Citizen, especially newer ones, are not built with an atmospheric room system in mind. Chris once said, it is better to build right from the start instead of knocking it all down and start again. I agree, but this is exactly what Chris does, knocking it down and start all over again. This is what Chris said in an interview 6 years ago.
The real answer is if you the more complicated it is and the bigger and the more ambitious, of course, it's going to take longer. And you really want to spend the time up front to build the systems first rather than retrofit them.
Star Citizen isn't exactly right on time. Would I love to see an atmospheric room system? Of course, even an indie game like Hardspace Shipbreaker has an atmospheric room system. However, I think Chris should admit he cannot do it, at least not in a certain amount of time. Most ships are not built for it. There is no coordination, no set of rules ship designs follow. Just recently at CitizenCon, CRG said they still want to have an atmospheric room system and are working on it. Working. It hurts just to think how much time this will take, especially since a lot of ships need to be redesigned, which could have been done from the start if there was any planning, any coordination. And this is my honest opinion. I think Chris should just put magical air shields into all ships and call it done. Let me know what you think in the comments below and see you next time. Bye. Auf Wiedersehen. Hey, you're still here. You might want to join me on Twitter. My Twitter account is Camural_SC.